Hey everyone, it's been a while since I've made a video, but I wanted to do this one as a response to Voice of Reasons. He's a friend of mine on TikTok. I have a lot of respect for him. He's done a lot of very good research. Even this is very interesting research, and I think you should go check out his video, The Truth About Aliens, and you can decide for yourself. He does great research, okay? So I'm not trying to bash him. He's been extremely kind to me, unnecessarily kind, ever since I came on TikTok and we became friends on there with my first account. And now he's getting into the alien discussion, and I have too, but we have slightly different takes on how it goes. So this is going to be just a simple one. He has incredible production value in his videos. Mine is going to be a simple slideshow, but that's the best I can do, so that's what we're going to get. Now, I'm going to hide my face, and I'm going to just go through the slideshow and talk over it. And so we'll hide me, we'll hide that, we will show the slideshow. It's called Where Do Little Gray Men Come From? A tale of two British fiction writers and one American trickster. So, here it goes. It starts with occult star beings. This is pulled from occultworld.com. Quote, in 1918, Crowley conducted a sex magic ritual called the Almal Antra, working with Roddy Minor, also known as Soror Ahitha. These guys all have multiple code names, of course. The working created a portal in which the spaces between stars, through which Lamb, that's Lamb over here on the side, was able to enter the known physical universe. That's how powerful their sex magic was, apparently. Since then, other entities are believed to enter through this widening portal and to be the basis for numerous contact experiences with UFOs and extraterrestrials. So that was 1918. In 1919, Aleister Crowley painted a picture of Lamb, and this is what he looked like. You can see he's got little pupils, very thin slits for eyes, but this huge hairless head with almost no nose and almost no mouth, and this tiny little body. I guess I don't really know what this is. That could be a hairy cloak that he's wearing, or something else. I'm not exactly sure. But now, let's look at this. Science fiction. In 1877, that's quite a bit earlier than 1900s when Aleister Crowley supposedly summoned Lamb, Mars was first observed by scientists. It was rumored, oops, I spelled rumored wrong, to have unnatural lines on its surface. This inspired the British imagination. In 1897, H.G. Wells published a short story about Martians who invade Earth. That's The War of the Worlds, very famous story. Wells described how they evolved to be a giant brain with no nostrils but large black eyes and a small mouth, because they had no need of muscles, hair, or typical mammal features. They were so technologically advanced that they only needed a brain and tendrils to operate the equipment. He kind of goes in depth in his story, if you've ever read it, as to how they must have existed in this low-gravity environment and had no physical challenges, so their brains just got bigger and their bodies shriveled up until eventually they looked something like this. They were basically a big brain with tentacles. They could barely stand in Earth's gravity. So we have two British propagandists, H.G. Wells and Aleister Crowley. H.G. Wells and Aleister Crowley were both Englishmen, born 9 years apart. Wells is the older of the two. H.G. Wells was deeply connected to T.H. Huxley, the Huxleys, if you know Aldous Huxley, Brave New World, all of that kind of stuff. Bertrand Russell, and the effort to reinvigorate British colonialism using science. Britain basically wanted to conquer the world, and especially America, and bring it in as its greatest ally, and they wanted to use science to do it. A lot of it was very racist, eugenics kind of stuff. Bertrand Russell he wrote The Scientific Outlook, which is an extremely racist book about how you could create a scientific society where humans are treated like cattle and they're bred for different purposes. Black people being bred like dogs for hard work, and the good Englishmen got to rule over everything with their science. It's this same group of people H.G. Wells was involved with when he wrote War of the Worlds, which was social conditioning to imagine an invasion in which it transcends nationalism. If Martians attacked, the whole world should unite. And the story is basically about, if you read it and you know how to read it, it's basically a story of how Britain, in its current state, when he was writing it, was unprepared for a invasion like that because they were still thinking too small. They thought it could never hit Britain, it could never hit England, and so they were unprepared for this. He was trying to stoke the public imagination to be more aggressive and keep the empire strong. Then it was America's turn. Americans experienced the War of the Worlds radio broadcast in 1938. That's like 20 years later. Before World War II broke out, when Orson Welles read an Americanized version of it, an adaptation. Orson Welles, the famous creator of Citizen Kane, was doing a radio broadcast where he read an adaptation of H.G. Wells' work, which was Americanized, set in New Jersey instead of in England. And so he used the new medium of broadcast technology, broadcast radio, to send it out across the country, and Americans heard it. It captured the imagination of rural Americans especially, because they didn't even really understand what was going on and that it was just fiction, because it was written as news that was developing. You had broadcasters and reporters on the radio whenever this thing was airing, and it sounded like reporters trying to report on something really happening. So then we get alien reports. Orson Welles described Martians as having skin like wet leather and eyes black and gleaming, but with weak bodies that could hardly stand gravity. With this vague description fully in the public mind, is it any wonder that future sightings have been so close to what H.G. Wells described in 1897? This is Aleister Crowley in his full getup. Now, does this look like a guy who can open a portal to hell, or a typical theosophist, scam artist obsessed with Eastern mysticism who stole H.G. Wells' idea and reimagined it as an occult phenomena? Do we have any evidence from the Bible that demons can take on the shape of physical beings? I don't believe we do. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I think demons are invisible spirits, unclean spirits. Angels can manifest, but I don't think we have any biblical basis to say that demons can take a form of something like what Aleister Crowley claims to have summoned. Crowley was famously desperate for negative attention. He called himself the Beast, 666. He was just desperate. He had no idea what he was talking about. He's not the Beast. He didn't fulfill any prophecy. He's a scam artist and a liar. He wanted negative attention. He wanted to piss off Christians. He wanted notoriety and prestige. He loved to lie, but was not the slightest bit original. All of this is stolen from other concepts, everything exotic, the Egyptian headdress, the leopard skin, the big robe. It's Freemasonry plus, Egyptian imagery, anything that would have caused British people to freak out if they saw it and think he was a sorcerer in the modern time. This is Helena Blavatsky. This is another quote from that same piece from Occult World. Crowley believed Lam to be the soul of a dead Tibetan Lama from Leng, between China and Tibet. So China and Tibet, just like Helena Blavatsky was obsessed with Tibet. Lam is Tibetan for way or path, which Crowley said had the numerical value of 71, or no thing, a gateway to the void and a link between the star systems of Sirius and Andromeda. Lam was to fulfill the work initiated by Aiwass, which was the supposed spirit that he channeled when he was writing his dark mystical arts books. In the background here you have Theosophy symbolism, which she founded Theosophy. So you get that? It's Tibetan for way or path. So even this description of a demon who supposedly told Aleister Crowley his name, it's a Tibetan reference. Just like Helena Blavatsky was obsessed with Tibet, and that was the whole point of this Theosophy thing. Blavatsky was born in 1831, much earlier, in Russia. But she lived a long time and had a lot of influence. She was a con artist who traveled India and invented Theosophy as a way to combine Eastern philosophy into something enticing for Western mystics. She was quite successful. She had a whole career. She ended up influencing Alice Bailey, who went on to be heavily involved in the United Nations, and we're still dealing with that today. That's a whole separate topic, but the point is, she predates H.G. Wells and Aleister Crowley by a long time and was very influential by the time they came around. H.G. Wells was not interested in Theosophy, but Aleister Crowley was. She claims to have channeled spirits of ascended masters, channeling spirits. She called them ascended masters. That goes into the Indian idea of these gurus, these disembodied, enlightened people whose souls can live on and teach others. Jesus was supposedly an ascended master, and that's why you can have influence from Jesus beyond the grave as his spirit lives on. This is the kind of stuff she was teaching. Again, that's a whole separate subject, but she says that she discovered hidden knowledge by channeling these spirits. She wrote huge books that are very complicated, but basically she was living in India and reading about Tibet and studying everything that they were up to. However, she never claimed to manifest a physical demon. So, I believe Crowley apparently wanted to one-up Helena Blavatsky, since he wanted to surpass her. She was all the rage. H.G. Wells was all the rage. His science fiction, her mysticism. Why not combine them? Why not say that you channeled a spirit and then opened a portal to hell, and out came this demon that had a Tibetan reference in it? But it's also based on star systems, just like how H.G. Wells was interested in space and science fiction. So combining science fiction with the mystical. So here are some questions. If Crowley's summoning experience was real, how is it that H.G. Wells describes Martians in a way that's so close to what is depicted decades later when Crowley ends up doing his picture? Think about it. Crowley does not claim to have been influenced by H.G. Wells at all in the War of the Worlds, but yet H.G. Wells already described the same thing, this small body, big head, especially this huge cranium for this huge brain, tiny little mouth, basically no nose, smooth, wet, leathery skin. The picture of Lamb has kind of narrow eyes, but other than that, you can see a direct influence. What are the odds of that if Crowley's thing was real? Are we supposed to believe H.G. Wells also summoned demons secretly? Or is it more likely that Crowley was an intellectual theft, or thief, I guess I should have written, who stole from Blavatsky and Wells simultaneously? So, that's a simple thought experiment there. I just wanted to put that out there that I do think we have all this influence going on. And people now say that Crowley, like Luke here, says that he thinks Crowley actually did open up this portal, or that's what he's implying. And these demons came through, and maybe they're still coming through, and that's all part of the current congressional hearings, and we're experiencing this demonic invasion that is masquerading as aliens. Well, if this is all psychological warfare, and even back in the 1800s, H.G. Wells was part of this British transatlantic effort to destroy nationalism with the threat of war of the worlds, with the threat of aliens invading and us not being prepared to defend ourselves from an alien invasion. Well, it's still going to the exact same thing that H.G. Wells was trying to accomplish. They're just continuing his project. That's before any space travel. H.G. Wells thought that we would reach the moon with a gigantic cannon because rockets hadn't been invented yet. You can read him in the story he wrote called Things to Come. It's a story of men going to space. He predicts the world wars and how at the end of it there's going to be a giant gun, a cannon that launches people, shoots people to the moon. But he also wrote this thing about the War of the Worlds, these Martians coming down. And he was a propagandist for the British secret agents, the Crown, whatever you want to call it, this Rhodes Scholarship Milner group, the Cecil Rhodes, offspring, who wanted to get America on board with this globalist agenda under this British intellectual leadership in the name of science. That's what's happening in these hearings. They are still pushing the same narrative with these unidentified flying objects, all this build-up and anticipation, the X-Files, all this preconditioning of trying to get people to believe in this stuff. And so what I'm seeing is H.G. Wells playing out in our faces, basically a modern, updated version of War of the Worlds, except playing out in Congress, because everything is kayfabe now. Everything is scripted. Everything is psychological warfare. Not perfectly scripted, but certain top secret revelations and disclosure events, of course they're scripted. They're highly scripted fakery. And so they're putting it out there with updated terminology, and they're trying to get people to buy into it again. And they're going back to the same old playbook that was written by H.G. Wells. That's all that I see. I don't believe Aleister Crowley could do anything magical. He got syphilis or whatever from his, sexual escapades or some sort of disease, or I heard, I don't know that much about him in detail, but he was a degenerate who ended up, trying desperately to be famous as this anti-Christian propagandist, and I don't think he accomplished anything. But the British think tanks, they had serious reach. So, watch his video. I highly recommend it. 21 minutes, great production value, nothing like this one, which is very dry and straightforward in comparison. And I love Luke, and I'm just respectfully giving a different side of the story, and I'm curious what you guys think. Leave comments, let me know what you think, and if you're interested in this kind of stuff, maybe I could do some more videos along this line, response things to your questions and comments, and just sort of do like this, a little slideshow, nothing fancy, but you get the point. Thanks for watching.